To Kenya now, where young people have been demonstrating for more than a year against the government of President William Ruto. The protests have often turned violent, with dozens killed in clashes with security forces. The movement has until now been largely without any leader, but more coherent groups are now beginning to emerge, despite the risk of being targeted by the authorities. DW's Felix Maringa has this report.
Joshua Okayo and his team are in hospital to visit young people injured during recent protests in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. He's a lawyer and a leader of a group known as the Revolutionary Gen Z Movement, which has over 3,000 members across the country. They hand out essentials like soap and toothbrushes and promise support. Joshua Okayo knows how important this can be. He says he himself was abducted and tortured over the demos last year. He believes being part of an organized group is the only way to get the political and social change that Kenya's youth want and to protect protesters.
We know if we organize, we are going to be 2 steps ahead of the state. We cannot just be going to the streets, people die, others are maimed, and then we go back home and then plan another, and we never care on the best way to reduce the deaths or even cancel the deaths completely, but still ensure that the message is conveyed. Organizing also helps us to be able to raise funds for some of these things that we are doing. Because if we are not organized, we are not able to brainstorm on ways to raise funds.
They meet every Thursday evening in Nairobi's Central Business District in a forum dubbed Bunge la Gen Z, which is Swahili for Gen Z's parliament. Members come from various backgrounds and professions. They use the forum to speak about issues facing the country, police abuse, and economic pain. They stream the event so more people can take part.
Bunge la Gen Z was formed to offer Gen Zs a platform where they could have conversations on issues that affect them, conversations where we can agree to disagree and sort of come up with solutions in terms of issues that affect us. The plan is to ensure that we have a Bunge la Gen Z in every single ward in Kenya. Well, it's difficult because you need financial resources to hit the ground and establish and mobilize. So we started with Nairobi, which is the easiest because in Nairobi people are online.
The protests have become increasingly violent over the past year. In the latest unrest, demonstrators and police clashed, leaving many dead and injured. The group says being organized means they can help people who've been injured or offer legal support to those who've been arrested. An outward display of the organization is this uniform. For them, it's not only a sign of their resistance, but also a commitment to the Constitution of Kenya, which they say has been violated by the political class. Joshua Okayo says getting organized is part of a long-term plan.
We could have achieved so much had we been intentional about organizing and just strategizing and being able to foretell what the state might do in case of anything. Protest can be done even without leadership, without structure, without anything. But we are organizing to actually overhaul the system. And you cannot overhaul the system and leave a blank space. You don't leave a hollow space. You have to actually occupy those positions.
Being decentralized has allowed the Gen Z protesters to challenge Kenya's political establishment. Not everyone in this leaderless movement is happy with the emergence of people stepping up to lead them, but members of the RGM say that organization is the only way forward.
Now, we want to hear more about Kenya's Gen Z movement there from Macharia Munene. He's a professor of history and a political analyst in Nairobi. Welcome to DW News. Macharia, what are the grievances and aspirations that drive this movement?
Well, disappointment that things have not gone as well as they should have. Generally, these are people who are educated by Mwai Kibaki, people who are exposed to the education that made them think and raise questions, people who have no idea how bad things were when Moi was president. So there are people who have been raised to expect good behavior on the part of government. So when they come across bad behavior, which it was, then their natural reaction is to raise questions.
Has this,
in terms of reaction from the other side is not very good.
Now, do you think this Gen Z movement has already affected Kenya's political landscape for real?
Yes, it has. Maybe not the way some people would have wanted, but from last year, the Kenya political landscape is very different from what it used to be. And yes, some aspects of the Gen Z movement was hijacked because initially there was the shock that came was the way they were organized without leaders, without this, on that. Yet they were very effective. They were not violent. They stressed the Constitution and the rule of law and the national anthem. And the political class was shaken to its feet. And the reaction that followed could see very clearly it was aimed at decentralizing or destroying Gen Z as a movement with other things. But it has changed because now, when you listen to political leaders talk, they often do refer to Gen Zs as part of their inspiration. So yes, it did. It changed President Ruto, and it changed Mr. Raila Odinga, and it changed the other people who would like to be leaders to pay attention to the youth.
You said that it was a non-violent movement. Why have police then responded so brutally to the Gen Z protests in recent months?
Well, it started as a non-violent, but then it was infiltrated by goons in the name of counter-youth. And the orchestration, because the counter-move was orchestrated very well by people with resources. And it's been reported that some of the supposed goons were actually police officers. And so the violence is something that came as a counterforce, but it was not the original part of it. And the idea is to discredit the Gen Zs with this. And the police, some of them are being very brutal about it. And then they can blame the Gen Zs for things that happened. The reaction of the police in some instances was what they had been taught. In the Moi days, the earlier days, you see people complaining, you respond with some brutality so that they can stop the questioning the authority. But this did not seem to work out very well. So sometimes later on, when the demonstrations came and the police were very well organized to meet these people, then and then you have the other side people saying they have their right to go on. The brutality became the order of the day. And therefore, it looks as if the demonstrations were by nature violent when they did not start as violent in the beginning.
Professor Macharia Munene there, thank you very much for your insights.
My pleasure.